In late 1944, the most sophisticated weapon ever built by man was facing an enemy it couldn't shoot down, an enemy that didn't show up on radar. The B-29 Superfortress was an engineering miracle, designed to fly at nearly 35,000 feet, untouchable and lethal. But with every mission over Japan, this technological marvel was being defeated not by fighters, but by physics itself.
Ah, the jet stream. The perfect way to turn a state-of-the-art precision weapon into the world's most expensive litter.
The result was a total strategic failure. Precision was impossible. And this failure created an unbearable pressure on command, because the alternative was a nightmare. To understand the pressure on command, you have to look at the map. In late 1944, after years of brutal island hopping, Japan wasn't a cornered nation. It was a vast military empire, still ruling over 500 million people across 3 million square miles.
And the alternative to a strategic breakthrough wasn't peace. It was starvation on a continental scale. On islands bypassed by the main advance, hundreds of thousands were already withering away. Operation Downfall wasn't just an invasion. It was the start of a years-long meat grinder to dismantle that empire, island by starving island.
The projected cost was over 1 million American casualties and millions more Allied and Asian lives. A problem of that magnitude couldn't be solved by committee or caution. It required a hammer, and the hammer they chose was Curtis LeMay.
So LeMay's big innovation was to stop trying to be clever and just set the whole place on fire. Sometimes the simple solutions are the most effective and terrifying.
America had been trying to bomb Japan as if it were Germany, targeting steel and concrete. But the scientists behind the incendiary program knew Japan's true vulnerability was its very construction. They didn't just theorize it, they engineered a way to prove it. In the Utah desert, they built meticulously researched replicas of German and Japanese city blocks. But the experiment wasn't just about finding what would burn. It was about defining a new philosophy of destruction. The scientists concluded that heat is a fundamentally more effective agent of war than blast. An explosion might destroy a factory machine, but leave food and clothing intact. Fire, they noted, causes complete destruction of the material fabric of a society. The damage is so absolute, it's cleared away with no attempt at reconstruction.
They weren't just figuring out how to knock down a building. They were writing the formula for how to erase a way of life from the map. They didn't just set them on fire. They classified the results. A Class A fire was one that became uncontrollable by firefighters in under 2 minutes. It wasn't about damaging a building. It was a scientific search for the perfect formula to guarantee a city's complete erasure.
It was there they perfected the M69 incendiary bomb. To ensure absolute authenticity, they hired architects who knew the enemy's construction intimately.
And here's where the story gets strange. The German buildings were designed by Erich Mendelsohn, a world-famous Jewish architect who had fled the Nazis. And the Japanese village was designed by Antonin Raymond, an American who had worked for years in Tokyo. Men who once built homes for people were now employed to design their perfect destruction.
The science of aniline was complete before LeMay ever took command. If you think this history of scientific premeditation needs to be known, help us get this report out by liking this video and subscribing to the channel. Armed with this scientific certainty, LeMay made his gamble. He would change every rule of aerial bombing. The new tactic? Fly low, at night, not in formation, but in a steady stream of individual bombers. And he made a second, even more radical bet. He ordered the B-29 stripped of nearly all their defensive armament. The official reason was to carry more bombs, But the secret after-action reports reveal a darker fear. With hundreds of planes in the dark, they feared the gunners would panic and end up shooting each other down.
Think about that. The plan was so chaotic, so dangerous, that command was more worried about us killing ourselves than the enemy killing us. They sent us into hell, naked, because they didn't trust us not to turn the sky into a friendly fire turkey shoot. And to make it worse, they were brutally honest in the pre-flight briefing. They told the crews straight up, if you get shot down over the city, do not expect mercy from the civilian population. They basically said, the people you are about to incinerate will not be your friends. They weren't just afraid of dying, they were forced to confront the morality of what they were about to do, moments before takeoff.
On the night of March 9th, 325 B-29s began to take off. But LeMay's plan was pushing men and machines past the breaking point.
Before a single bomb was dropped, 46 of those planes were forced to turn back, nearly 1 in 7. Engines overheating, failures, or maybe just the sheer terror of knowing you're flying defenseless into the heart of the enemy empire. LeMay's gamble was already taking its toll.
The attack was not an indiscriminate bombing run. It was a highly coordinated, two-phase precision operation designed to create the conditions for a firestorm. First came the Pathfinders. This elite vanguard didn't carry the small M69s. They carried the M47, a much larger 70-pound napalm bomb. Their mission was twofold. First, to start massive appliance fires, blazes so large they would immediately draw in and overwhelm Tokyo's firefighting equipment.
All right, step 1, make a prank call to the fire department. Step 2, burn down the city. It's an elegant plan.
And second, to create enormous incandescent markers in the sky, painting a giant X over the most flammable heart of the city for the main strike force to aim at. 24 elite bombers flying ahead, tasked with hitting 4 exact aiming points with larger napalm bombs, creating a burning X of fire to guide the main force.
Then came the swarm, and the weapon they carried, the M69, was an incredible piece of purpose-built engineering. Now this M69 wasn't just a firebomb. I gotta ask the Legion, have you ever heard of a weapon so custom-made for its target? Let me know in the comments.
And the scale of the delivery was staggering. Each B-29 was loaded with 40 cluster containers. Each container held 38 of these M69 bomblets. That's a total of 1,520 individual incendiary devices per plane, each designed to start its own fire.
It was designed to punch through a wooden roof, fall inside the house, and only then, after a 5-second delay, a small charge would shoot a sock of burning napalm jelly out its tail. The goal was to start the fire from the inside out, in the most vulnerable place possible.
The execution was brutally effective, but it wasn't simple. It was an act of complex, split-second physics. From an altitude of 7,500 feet, traveling at over 250 miles per hour, the laws of motion meant the bombardiers couldn't just drop their bombs when they were over the target. They had to release them more than a mile before the target, letting the bombs travel horizontally for over 40 seconds before impact.
So, you're doing advanced physics homework in a freezing tin can with people shooting at you, knowing if you get the math wrong, you just dropped a load of bombs on a fish? Sounds like a fun night out.
And on this night, the calculations were perfect. The attack lasted exactly 2 hours and 53 minutes. And in a stroke of hellish luck, the 40-knot winds that night caught bombs that fell short of the target and used them to start new fires that were blown back into the main fire zone, intensifying the storm.
And even thousands of feet up, the crews reported something that would haunt them forever. The smell, the unmistakable, pervasive stench of burning human flesh.
Operation Meetinghouse killed an estimated 100,000 people, more than the initial casualties of Hiroshima.
Right, so that's the after-action report. But the story doesn't stop here. If you think these files need to be opened, join the Legion by subscribing so we can keep this campaign going.
In the end, LeMay's firebombing campaign was a terrifying strategic success, validating the new doctrine of low-altitude incendiary warfare. In a single night, the industrial heart of Tokyo's cottage industries was wiped from the map.
A success paid for by incinerating an area 12 times larger than the one destroyed at Hiroshima. But here's the final, chilling piece of the puzzle. The after-action reports prove the U.S. military knew the firebombing campaign was what had truly defeated Japan, and they knew they had the power to repeat it at will.
Just days before Hiroshima, the Air Force had launched a single raid of over 850 bombers. They had the proven capability to deliver Hiroshima-level destruction conventionally whenever they wanted. The choice to use the atomic bomb wasn't about whether they could destroy a city. It was about how efficiently they could do it.
For decades, the story we've been told is that the atomic bomb ended the war. But the US government's own secret reports conclude that the bomb did not cause the defeat of Japan. The nation was already broken by the destruction of its ability to make war.
And the Japanese leadership agreed. When questioned after the war, they cited the conventional bombing campaign as the decisive factor in their surrender, 3 times more important than the atomic bomb.
In the end, all the strategic reports and secret documents boiled down to the chillingly simple philosophy of the man who led the raid. Curtis LeMay justified his actions with a statement that defined the brutal logic of total war. "You've got to kill people," he said, "and when you've killed enough, they stop fighting."
And that is the brutal calculus we're left with. So we turn it over to the Legion. If the firebombing campaign had already defeated Japan, what was the true purpose of the atomic bombs? Was it the final blow to save lives, or the first power play of the Cold War? Leave your analysis in the comments.